Grandfather had cool. That is to say, he photographed well. Wool cap, blazer, and tie, Harold Hall cut a romantic figure. Turned out as a kind of 1940s Jack London, a man of the world. It was the just so way, his hand tucked into the pants pocket, the wrist just above tagging back his sport coat to a natty angle, so very hip. Or the studied insouciance with which his cigarette was poised between his fingers. Guy was the bee's knees. While most striking of all, leaning against a post as one would lean against a future that is rolling out like a red carpet, Harold had a way of staring off in the distance as if something important existed just over the horizon, something waiting just for him. In a time before the ubiquitous family camera, the Kodak snapshot, my grandfather struck everyday poses like a movie star. The problem with the man striking film star-like appearances is that the real-life movie of Harold Hall might well have been titled The Lousy Husband and Father. The man may have looked devil-may-care, but as a husband and father, he was simply the devil. A heavy drinking man, Harold tore into his wife. As soon as his eldest son was old enough to defend his mother, the boy became object of the blows. Sullen and mean, Harold was a junkyard dog, snapping and barking and biting at anything that moved in his territory. Quite possibly he objected to his role as husband and father and dreamed of missing glamour. Glamour that drifted just over the horizon. Ironically, since that era, that very character, the cruel and drunken patriarch, has made his way into the world of film, becoming one of its stock characters, an artistic trope. Countless films have starred that bitter soul, garbed in tattered white undershirt, the man sweaty and clinging to a half-empty bottle. In a strange sense, however indirect, Harold made his way into glamour, over that horizon and into the movies, stepping up as the bad seed known to story vernacular as the antagonist. Yet, for the real-world Harold, posing before the camera lens, smoking, a steel-lipped bridge and a great lake and an island of industry behind him, a different future than he imagined was to unfold. You see, I never met my grandfather. Ever. Indeed, he never met any of his grandchildren. That's because Harold Hall was destined to star alone in his own sad and sorry movie. Scene after scene alone, with no one at whom the dirty dog could bark and bite. And it's all the doing of one woman, my grandmother, Helen. For Helen turned out to be a woman in possession of courage and calm. She was the one who had real moxie, and, significantly, she was a woman with a much better idea for a film to star in.
And it's pretty amazing that she picked up her life in her 40s. She had a good job, she had people, friends, she had support, she had my grandmother, or, things like that. And got on a train and went with her son who was 13 and me who was just turning 19 and went to California. I finally found this place in Hollywood, a little duplex, a little stucco building, very typical Hollywood, very cute. It was a nice little California street with palm trees and it was in Hollywood. I had Hollywood for an address. Bob Hope, Bing Crosby, all live on stage. Red Skelton we saw many times. After the show was over, he would just hang around and say, "Do you want to see Gertrude?" And he'd do Gertrude.
Gertrude and Heathcliff, the two seagulls are talking to you. He said, She says, "Well, it looks like everybody's tightening their belts." He says, "They sure are. Did you hear about Willie the Skunk's kid? Left. Willie wouldn't give him a cent."
When my mom got on that train to go to Southern California with her family, she fulfilled a dream she'd had since she was a young woman, to move to California.
In the year of 1951, Helen undertook to do something that women of the time mostly did not do. A single mom with kids, she weighed anchor for the land of TV, film, and radio stars, and she never looked back. Her children grown and married with kids, Helen lived alone, comfortable in a duplex near Sunset Strip, girdled by the distant sound of motorcycles, commerce, and fame. A job well done. Her family embarked on bustling lives in a tumultuous decade. She coasted quietly into aging, a humble yet happy ending to her own Hollywood movie. Or so it seemed. For something unexpected happened. And it happened fast. In her 60s, Helen met a man at church, Dave Hartman. To the surprise of everyone, Helen's star was to begin anew as she set forth on a highly successful sequel, Part 2 of the life of a solid woman. Dave became the accidental and faux executive producer for Helen's new role, a role very different from family heroine, one even closer to Hollywood movie lights. After Helen married Dave, the couple located themselves in Dave's fanciful family home, an aging yet elegant mansion in West Hollywood on June Street, a neighborhood of Hollywood filmmakers and foreign diplomats, ultra-green lawns and neat rows of palm trees. The mansion was perfectly cinematic, with its French doors and maid staircase running up the center of the house. So the Hartmans put themselves on a local register, a book and official listing that is browsed by filmmakers seeking locations for their productions. The listing turned the tables for Helen. For the woman who once whisked her family off to be in the home of the stars, those stars now came to her home. Jonathan Winters came first, shooting one of his hefty bag commercials in the Hartman's driveway. A young Jim Carrey appeared in the Hartman mansion early in his career. Other stars and movies and commercials followed. But the most memorable visit for Helen was when the Hartman mansion hosted Sid Caesar, Milton Berle, and Danny Thomas. The comedians were shooting a television movie called Side by Side. Many scenes were shot in the Hartman mansion living room, bedrooms, dining room, recreation room, and patio. While in between scenes, the Hartmans dined with the stars, and Helen nursed Milton Berle's cold with a dose of vitamins from her own stash. Helen lived to a ripe old age of 94, passing away in the summer of 2006. However, Helen's brush with celebrity was not yet over. There was to be another sequel, Part 3. You see, by odd coincidence, it turned out that Dave's family was in possession of a prepaid burial plot, and that plot resided in a funeral park called Hollywood Forever. Located in the back of the old Paramount Studios, whose gold walls still frame the south side of the cemetery, Hollywood Forever lays claim to a crush of celebrity burials. And this was to be Helen's final resting place. On the day of Helen's funeral, our chauffeured black limo passed a line of people waiting for entrance to Hollywood Forever. Turns out the cemetery was showing horror films as a part of their business. These folks were there for the show. On the day of Helen's funeral, we mourners drove past none other than a movie line. Sunday, August 13th, 2006. We buried Helen among the stars. While Helen Lundeen was laid to rest among some of the biggest names in show business, her tombstone read only wife, mother, and grandmother. Yet Helen still measures up, for she was a heroine in the most important of shows. The role she played took our family story far from that junkyard dog and his dark shadow, so that we could all star in a much better film.